Raider Nation, what's going on? You're watching the Raiders Report. In today's show, I have 5 players that the Raiders could draft at pick number 19. When you look at what some of the Raiders' biggest needs are, of course, they have needs on both offense and on defense. But when I think of the 4 biggest glaring needs, it's linebacker number 1, wide receiver number 2, cornerback 3, and safety 4. If that list looks familiar, it's probably because you saw my last video, 5 players that the Raiders should draft at number 12. Now, I am not going to put any of the players that I had in that video in this video. I want to give you 5 new names. I'm just trying to educate y'all. And if you haven't seen that video yet, it's probably because you're not subscribed, so make sure you do. Click that big red button. Now, I'm going to go from players 5 all the way to 1. So if you want to see my number 1 target, you got to watch until the end. Let's talk about Xavier McKinney. He can play both nickel, okay, and safety. And I like the fact that he can play kind of all over the football field. I hope that some of his versatility could help us get the full potential out of Lamarcus Joyner. We know that Joyner didn't live up to the hype. If you watched my rumors video, know that I gave Lamarcus Joyner staying with the Raiders 3 Chucky heads. When I think about the way McKinney can impact this football team, I've actually seen him being brought up in the same breath as Grant Delpit. I don't know if I'm quite there, but the way for me that the Raiders are going to bring in a player like McKinney is if they don't re-sign Carl Joseph. I like Carl Joseph a lot. I think he's a talented player. There is no doubt that our defense needs some help, especially in the secondary. With McKinney, though, I know some of y'all don't like Alabama players, and for whatever reason, I'm not quite sure. They're very talented. I'll tell you what, though. McKinney is a hard-playing dude, long, lanky, okay? Can get it done. Now, I got a question for everyone who's watching the show. Who should the Raiders draft at 19? If you're watching this on YouTube, you might get hit with an ad break. So while the ad is playing, I want you to scroll on down. I'm going to make this question the pinned comment on this video. Who should the Raiders draft at 19? Let's now get into the top 4. Laviska Shenault Jr., wide receiver out of Colorado. I've talked about Laviska a few times on the Raiders Report before. If you want a talented receiver who has extremely high upside, look at Laviska. If you want a wide receiver that's got some injury history, maybe he's not the guy for you. The one thing that I like is the fact that Laviska's played all over the football field, and I'm going to tell you a little bit more about him. You just got to hang on, because the Raiders Report, I'm telling y'all that I'm going to be in prime time on Tuesday. Tuesday, 10 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Pacific Time. So turn on those notifications so you know exactly when I go live, and make sure that you guys are subscribed. We're doing things a little bit differently this week. All right, I'll get back into Laviska. 764 yards, 4 touchdowns, 56 receptions this year at Colorado. But Colorado also realized, this guy's really talented. Probably our best player on offense. We need to get the ball in his hands as much as possible. That is something that I like a lot. Now, they used him in the run game. I think he had 2 rushing touchdowns. They used him in the passing game, obviously. They used him in special teams. When you see a college try to get a player like Laviska in as many different avenues as possible, it's because he's athletic. Now, I've seen the hype around him being as high as Julio Jones. I'm not there yet. Probably it's really hard to live up to being Julio Jones, but he does have high upside. He also has some injury history. Now, I'm going to ask you guys this question, right? Who's the better draft pick? Let's say both Xavier McKinney and Laviska are both on the board at 19. Sure, it's going to determine what we did with that first pick, at pick 12, but let's have some fun. So type X for Xavier, or why don't you type L for Laviska? Obviously, I'm going to type my L for Laviska. I think it fills a little bit of a bigger need. However, if we do not re-sign Carl Joseph, I definitely think it totally changes up some things. Now, I want to give a special shout out to today's sponsor, BMW of Santa Maria and Community Volkswagen. I try to give you guys the best deals all the time here on the Raiders Report. So today, I found my top 2 favorites. Deal number 1, BMW X2, that S-Drive 28i. MSRP, you can see $46,000. You can save over $14,000 if you go to chatsports.com/BMW to get that deal. Or maybe you like deal number 2. At BMW Santa Maria, obviously a lot of BMWs, but Community Volkswagen, they also have Hondas. They have Jeeps, they have Toyotas. Let's just say if BMW is a little bit out of your price range. Now for that one, you can see it on screen, it's $19,540. You can save $1,740. If you want that deal, that's chatsports.com/Honda. I'm putting these deals up to figure out what you guys like. because like you, like me, I need a new car. Just trying to figure it out for y'all. Chatsports.com/Honda to get that deal. Number 3 on my list of players that the Raiders could draft and should target at 19 if they are available. We're going to go linebacker Kenneth Murray. So the Raiders, they're still looking for that impact linebacker. And realistically, the Raiders haven't had an impact linebacker since 2014. All right, Khalil Mack, I'll say. But depending on what the Raiders do with let's say Tahir Whitehead, I think the Raiders should end up cutting Whitehead if he doesn't restructure his contract. Then you got to look at what potentially could happen with Vontaze Burfict. If both of those two players are not in silver and black next year, that makes linebacker an even bigger need. Kenneth Murray to me is a player where if you go back and you watch a lot of the Big 12 games, the fact that he's able to move side to side is clutch. The fact that I think he's actually a halfway decent player in the passing game is another thing that I look for. The NFL is, I'm not saying turning into the Big 12, but it's a passing league. And when I go back and I look at the weaknesses of a player like Vontaze Burfict, when I go back and I look at the weaknesses of a player like Tahir Whitehead, I think Kenneth Murray can at least go side to side. And the fact that he's used to being spread out, giggity, by the Big 12, I think that's something that we could look at. Now, he had 17 tackles for a loss, 4 sacks, 4 pass breakups, but over 100 tackles. He is a player that has experience. He is a player that has some leadership, okay? And a player that I like a lot. He's my number 3 pick for the Raiders' top choices at number 19. Okay, time to look at the number 2 player on my list. Trevon Diggs, cornerback from Alabama. Diggs fits the mold of what teams want in a cornerback and gives the Raiders some much-needed depth in the secondary. He can cover, especially quick receivers, due to his outstanding footwork. I think my only weakness that I can really see with a player like Diggs is he doesn't really, I feel like, want to tackle. Now, a lot of you are always like, Mitch, well, could you give me an NFL comp? I asked last week, how could I make these videos better? How could I educate you a little bit more? The comp that I've seen with Diggs is Aqib Talib. Now, y'all know that I love Tom. He's the best in the business. And I asked him, Tom, what do you think of that comp? He said, it's a good comp. I just don't think he's as fast as a player like Aqib Talib. But when I can see the player with an upside, he's long, he's lanky, he can cover some of these big receivers that are in the NFL in today's game. I like Trevon Diggs a lot. And he does fit a big need, but I don't know if it's as big of a need as Kenneth Murray, obviously. So let's say this. I think Trevon Diggs is a better player than Murray. However, Murray fits a bigger need for the Raiders team right now. So which one would you go with? Let's say both Kenneth Murray of Oklahoma, he's on the board linebacker. Or would you go with Trevon Diggs? So type K for Kenneth, type T for Trevon Diggs. Let me know in the comments section. The other sponsor on today's show, BetDSI, the internet's #1 sportsbook. We're talking college football. If you want to go bet on who's going to win the national championship game, you can do that at BetDSI. Go to chatsports.com/bet. Use that promo code Raiders120 for 120% deposit bonus. If you don't want to bet on college football, you can also bet on the NFL playoffs. You can bet on who's going to win the Super Bowl, but you got to do it at BetDSI. I'm going to go with LSU. Don't hate me. Number 1 on my list, the Raiders, if he's on the board at 19, and if the 5 players that I talked about in my video previously for pick 12 are not on the board, this is the wide receiver that I want. And I can guarantee a lot of y'all are going to agree with me. Henry Ruggs. As Tom says, he is the fastest player in the 2020 draft. When I asked Tom how fast, he said that he could run a 4.2, and in fact, he could break John Ross's record of 4.2240. Yeah, I know California, I know that's blazing, which I know you guys like to do. Now, Henry Ruggs, to me, some people regard him as actually being the best wide receiver in the draft. I'm still on board with CeeDee Lamb and Jerry Jeudy being better, but I know Mike Mayock wants speed. I know John Gruden wants speed, and I know they want to be able to build around whoever's going to be playing quarterback. This is what he put up with Alabama. It's impressive. The only thing that I feel like people have ever hit me with when they talk about Ruggs is they go, Mitch, we don't want Alabama wide receivers. Don't look at the helmet. Don't look at the team he played for. Look at the player. Amari Cooper and Henry Ruggs are 2 very, very different players. And you might not like to hear this. Amari Cooper's a good wide receiver. Amari Cooper just lost the will to, I think, want to be a Raider. He's still doing pretty well for the Cowboys. Henry Ruggs, though, to me, is a blazer for speed, and he can stretch the field, which is something the Raiders, I think we can all agree, desperately need to do. So today's show, who should the Raiders draft at pick 19? I gave you 5 targets. Now I want to hear from y'all. Who would you draft if all 5 of these players are on the board? If you're going to go Xavier McKinney from Alabama, I want you to type A. If you're going to go Laviska Shenault, wide receiver out of Colorado, I want you to type B. Kenneth Murray, linebacker from Oklahoma, who does fit our biggest need, type C. Trayvon Diggs out of Alabama, type D. And then Henry Ruggs, wide receiver from Alabama, type F. So you're going to go McKinney, type A, type B, type C, type D, type F. Let me know in the comments section.
Raider Nation, what's going on? Is this the #1 Raiders channel on YouTube? For Chucky Heads, believe it, baby. And if you haven't already, subscribe right here. I'm giving you Chucky Heads, news, rumors, Raider Nation rumors. And look at this, I'm making your life easier. Check out my next video. Thanks for watching, and go Raiders.